Coming to get you, Bobber.
Disturbing Behaviour is a 1998 horror movie directed by David Nutter, and it stars James Marsden, Katie Holmes and Nick Stahl. I'm going through a late 90s, early noughties teen slasher phase right now, and I'm looking into Disturbing Behaviour. It's a little bit different from the rest of the teen slashers from back in the day because it's not fully a teen slasher movie. The new kid in Cradle Bay stumbles across something sinister about the town's method of transforming its unruly teens into upstanding citizens. After watching a movie, especially a movie that I haven't seen for years, I tend to look into the trivia for films and look into the history of them, and I found out recently, or just yesterday, that this movie had 5 test screenings and it had 5 different cuts of the movie. Now the director David Nutter didn't like this because his first cut was about 115 minutes long and he liked it, and some test audiences actually liked it as well, including MGM. They loved it. So they showed it to a test audience and it didn't test very well, so they had to go back to the cutting room floor and cut some of it out until they got to like the 4th cut, and they brought it down to 72 minutes. That's a really low minutes count for a horror movie or any movie. And it tested well with audiences, but the director did have a point, and it was quite a sarcastic point where MGM said, well, test audiences liked it and they didn't walk out, and David Nutter says, well, they didn't have time to walk out because obviously it was 72 minutes long. They ended up cutting it or adding bits back in again to 80 minutes, and that one tested the best with audiences, the 80-minute version. Now I know there are fan edits of this film. I haven't seen the fan edits. I think the fan edit is around 105 minutes. That's just with deleted scenes that are from the special features that are edited into the movie. So that's the only really long cut that we have, but there's no official director's cut out there, so I'm going to be looking into the original theatrical cut at 80 minutes. I'll be honest guys, there isn't a lot of good things to talk about with this film, so I'll talk about the one positives that I have for this, and that is the music. Obviously we all know about the flagpole sitter that's in the film and in the trailer, Paranoia. So the soundtrack was good. I actually really like soundtracks from back in the late 90s and the early noughties. I was a teenager back then and I just loved all that music. So when I watched it again for the first time in years, anytime a good song came on, I was singing all the words to the song. So that was a positive. Oh, and I'd say another positive would be William Sadler. He plays the janitor in this film. He's the one that's got the conspiracy that all these teens are getting taken over somehow, so he's trying to find a device that would stop them from taking over the little town. His performance in this was great, everyone else not so great. Although this was a theatrical released movie, and in fact some countries it was only released for a week, but although it was a theatrically released and produced movie, it felt like a TV movie. It was very cheap looking, and that also put me off. I really liked the story, I just didn't like how they executed the story. I think that it felt like something that Stephen King would write, and if they tackled the story well, then it would have been a really good movie. Because of the cuts, the family had a really choppy backstory. We had a brother and sister, and they also had another brother who was played by Ethan Embry. I completely forgot about him, but the fact that Ethan Embry is only in little small cuts shows that he was in more of the movie if we saw the full movie. But he killed himself, so we don't know much about him. All we know is that he shot himself, and we just seen little back clips of footage of him, and that's it. They don't really talk about him. James Marsden talks about him on a boat just quite briefly, and then they talk about him at the dinner table, and that's about it. We don't really know anything else. It felt like we should have known more, but because the movie was so choppy, it left it all out, so it felt pointless. Also, because of the cuts were so bad that most of the characters felt hollow, and it's as if they weren't supposed to be there, and if they cut them out completely it wouldn't really matter. There was another scene that really annoyed me because I wanted to know more with Katie Holmes' character. She lives in a dump, it looks like an old run-down village, and James Marsden goes to see her, and the way they film this scene is almost as if we're supposed to recognise this, and then we find out why she lives in a dump and that's it, but they don't go into that. So I felt like if they cut that little part away, then again it's something we wouldn't miss, but we do have to be aware that there's only so much they can cut until they make this like an episode, because it was so short. 80 minutes is short enough, but if they cut any more, there would be no point in the movie. I don't know if there was an original ending either, or if this was the ending that they always had, but I felt like the ending was also empty, because it was over in an instant, and I think it's also down to the fact that it was only on for 80 minutes, but it's almost as if they got to that point with William Sadler and he's trying to get all these people off a bridge and kill them all, almost like rats following a noise, for example. But I felt like there was something else that should have happened after that, and nothing did, so I was very disappointed by the end as well. One thing I do remember reading is the ending that they finally went with Nick Stahl surviving and becoming a student teacher. Test audiences didn't like that. I actually thought it was okay. It almost felt like, oh, there could be a sequel, but obviously there wasn't. So I didn't mind that they left that in, but again, why didn't we see Nick Stahl survive? As far as I'm aware, they all followed William Sadler's car. Why wouldn't he follow that? Again, I'd like to see more about that. One of the movie's biggest problems was it was fighting with itself. It almost had an identity crisis. It's as if it was trying to be your typical late 90s teen slasher movie, and that would test well with audiences, and all the teenagers would get their seats on the bums on the seats, sorry. So it almost felt like it was trying to be that, but at the same time it was trying to be this mystery sci-fi movie. I think if they chose one angle to go in, it would have been a lot better and a lot clearer, but the fact that they were splitting around, was it a sci-fi mystery movie, was it a teen slasher movie, I just don't know. It confused me, and I'm guessing it would have confused you as well. When I first seen it 20 odd years ago, I remember it being an okay movie, not a very memorable movie, because when I watched it yesterday, there was a lot in it I didn't remember. That's how memorable the movie actually was. There's no great death scenes in it, nothing that stands out, and when I watched it again yesterday I thought it's not the worst movie, but it's definitely not a movie that I would recommend to anybody. So that's my review for Disturbing Behaviour, guys. I actually felt really disappointed in doing this review because I thought I would enjoy this film more than I did back then, because I also remember back then that I wasn't really enjoying it. So I thought I'll leave it 20 years and see what I think, but nothing's really changed, and if anything I'm even more disappointed. As always, guys, though, if you've seen the movie, leave your comments down below, let me know what you thought of it. Anyway, guys, thanks a lot for watching again, thanks for subscribing, I'll see you soon, bye bye.